Hello everyone, this is the video for Microsoft Project 2007. I've already done a series for Project 2010, so if you have that version and you wanted to look at it, you can find that videos. I'll try to put a link around here somewhere as I'm speaking. You should see it somewhere here that you can go to the playlist. I've got 5 videos for it. I'm planning to do the same here. I'm going to most probably have 4 videos for Microsoft Project 2007. Try to cover all the important elements. 2007 and 2010, there is a difference because in 2007 they did not go to the ribbon system which 2010 has. In Word, Excel 2007 they did move to the ribbon system. In 2007 project they still had the menu system, the file, edit. So it just looks different. The ideas are the same, so I'm hoping in 4 videos I'll be able to cover all the important elements. So let's get going with project. Microsoft Project is used to track projects. You can put task in there, assign people to the jobs, put cost into it. You can create reports. So as we go through, we'll look at each and every element. The first thing in this video, I want to talk about the basics of Microsoft Project and get into as much details as we can with task. So the first thing is when you go to the menu, there is the menu system. If you found that it didn't open like this, in my case it did, you can just click on blank. But you could click on File and New, and if you wanted, you can look at some templates. You can just download ready-made templates that Microsoft has that you can look at if you didn't want to work with it. But I like to work with a blank project. So first, under File, there is an option called Properties. You can click in here and you can make up a project. So I can just say Amir's House Reno. I can put the manager's name, and I can also put the company. Okay, so just some information that you can add here. Under edit, you've got all the different options for finding, replacing, copying, and deleting. We'll talk about some of these things. Under view, you've got options to view things in different ways. If I wanted, I could view toolbars, and I can add a tracking toolbar. Right now we have the standard and the formatting, but if I wanted, I could put a tracking. And this might show up wherever it shows up, but you can always move them. So you can move it around. Insert, you've got different things to insert. Under format, you got the formatting. Under tools, there is an option called options within tools. So in this window, you have few things that you can set, like there's the general thing. You can set a few things here. You can go to the view option and you can set the dollar values, USD and things like that. And you can also set the date format. There is an option here called calendar, in which you can choose when does your week start, how many hours per day does your company work, how many hours per week, and by default there are 20 days per month. That's the way Microsoft looks at it. 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, so 5 4s are 20. But you can change those settings and you can set it as default, so it will remember it. You can change the times another way if you want it. You can go to Tools and you can click on Change Working Time. And here you can change the working time. So up here on the bottom, in the exceptions, I can even put an exception. I can say July 4th, which is a holiday in the US. So I can scroll across and I can say July 4th is a holiday, or the 25th or the 31st. And I can even click on details and I can say that is this a non-working day, or I can choose and make it, hey, this is a working day, if I want it, and I can set certain times for it. And if it's a non-working, I can say it's a yearly thing. Every year, just set it up. You can even set it up for daily or weekly. If there were certain hours, say every Friday, few hours you couldn't work, there was a meeting going on, so you can set that. So project will remember it, so it doesn't assign anybody job on that time. And you can always set these start dates and when does it end. Do you want it to end at a certain time, or you can just say continue going. And you can also delete it if you didn't want it. work weeks. So up here too, in the default, I can go to details and I can set, say for example, on Saturdays, I want people to work. Like there are a few hours that we're going to go work. So I can set specific times here. So I can click here and I can just say, we're going to work on Saturday, 11 a.m. to say 2 p.m. You know, we'll just work a few hours, no breaks. We'll just, and that's, so you can set things like that, or you can change any of the other hours too. Like you see, they have a set time in here that you can change it. So that's a good way to set things up. They also have different types of calendars, like night shifts, and we'll talk a little bit later how to create your own calendars. Cancel. Under project, there is an section information called project information. Up here, I can choose my start date. I can say, okay, let's start the project on 1st April. And by default, all jobs are set for priority 500. And that's the default. But you can increase it. Individual tasks can have a higher priority to give it a more importance. And there is a statistics button here, which we'll look at even later, which just shows me all the information about how much money I've spent and how many days and things like that. Okay. So these are all the toolbars, and we'll come back and look at some. So let's just start adding some tasks. So say for example, my first task was move things to rental place. So I want to move all the stuff that I have in my house to a rental place, because in this project I want to put tiles for my floor in my 3 floors, in my 3 rooms, and I'm also going to get some painting done, and I'm also going to order some closets from, say, a furniture store like IKEA, and I'm going to assemble it and put it up. So the first job is to move the things, and the duration, it says 1 day question mark. So how many time will this take? I'll say, you know what, 1D, which stands for 1 day, and I hit enter. So it's set for 1 day. If I want it 1 minute, I just type 1M. If I wanted 1 hour, you can even put 0.5 hours or 0.5D, which will be 4 hours because you've set for 8 hours of work a day. I can type 1MO, and it's a 1 month. 1WK, now it's a week. And if I wasn't sure, I wanted to say it's an estimated, I can put 1D and a question mark. So that's the way you do it. Now the start date is added because we added that as our project information, saying my start date is April 1st. You can even double click here and you'll see this option here that you can choose whether this is estimated, what's the duration, what's the priority, and we'll be coming back to this window again. Now I've just copied and typed some tasks. I'm just going to paste it here, and because the tasks were already typed, so you just put 1 day question mark for everything, and I'll just make things up. Say 0.5 hours for take the floor measurements. I need to hire somebody, I'll say half a day to make sure. 1 day to choose the closet design, 1 day for that. Place the order, say 1 day. And you can also click in here and you can use the fill handle if you wanted to. So everybody's set for 1 day. But I'll just say place the new tiles. I'll say this will take 5 days. You know, check floors. Clean up will be 0.5 hours. Painting house will be 2 days. And assembling the closet and all that will be faster. 0.5 hours. And then bring back things. So 1 day. So you can keep on adding all the things that you want in here. Now if you forgot and made a mistake and you wanted to add a task, you can just go to any of them. And so for example, I wanted to add a milestone before I start doing the removing the old tiles. So I can click here. You can hit the insert button on your keyboard, or you can click on insert new task and it adds a line above it. Now here I'll just say, you know what, I want to do a check here. So I'll say check planning details, and this is a milestone. That is, this is not a task. I just want to make sure everything's in order before I go to the next stage. So I just put 0D. So you see on the side, this is called a Gantt chart. They have that symbol, and that means it's a milestone. It's not an actual task. Doesn't take up anything. It's just something for me to check, but you could put something there too. So you can add milestones. I'll just double click here, and you'll see what's the milestone option right there in advance. It has a check mark for milestone because I've set it for 0 days. Now if I wanted to set things up, like summarize things, so because I've got a planning phase, and I've got a tile phase, and I've got a closet setup phase. So I'll click here, and I'll say insert new task, and I'll say, you know what, this is the plan phase. Okay, and I'm going to highlight the plan phases. This is like in Excel, and then I'm going to use the indent button. So there is this indent button here. Now as I do that, this plan phase has a minus sign and a plus sign, so I can reduce the plan so that if somebody can look at it, make sense of it easily. Now for remove tiles, I'll insert a task, and I'll say this will be tiles phase. Now you see tile phase became indented, so I'll move it back out. Now I'll highlight the tile phase, and I'll indent it. I'll click here, I'll insert one more task, and I'll call this the closet setup phase, and it's again indented. I'll click here, and I'll just move it back out. I'll highlight these guys, and I'll indent it. So now I've got 3 different summary. These will be called the summary phases. Now you've noticed one thing, that all the jobs are like starting on the first. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight all of them because they all are starting on the first, but that's not the case. So to link them together, I can just highlight it, and I can use this link button. And now you see they all have actually gone in, and they've linked to each other. So all the tasks have been set up one after the other. You can also set them by using this predecessor column. You can just click on it, press F2, and now you can edit it. So all of these numbers you can change. So you see each and every number, like this is row 3. So this task will say that it is connected to the row 3 task. And you can go in and change it to any of these tasks that you wanted. Say for example, remove old tiles for some reason is hanging on its own, and I wanted this job to be connected to the job 8. So I could just click here 8, and I hit enter. Now you see the connections made after the milestone. Same thing here, this closet is not there, so I can just say this will be after the row 15 task, or I can double click on it, and I can go to predecessor, and I can choose it from here. So you might just find it easier to just click here and then put number 15, and now you'll find that the connection starts to get done here. So this is the way you add tasks. Now if you wanted to remove any of the links, say for example this plan phase, I'm like, just a summary, I don't want it to be linked to anything, so I could just unlink it. Okay, I can click on the summaries and I can unlink them, so there's no connection happening at the summary level. It's just a check mark me. And here too, this guy needs to be connected to the point 19, so now it's connected. You can delete tasks by clicking on it and hitting the delete button on the keyboard, or I believe it's under edit and then delete task. You can always use the undo button to bring them back. So you can go and add as many tasks you want, and you can also check out the predecessor. Now let's look at some more details within each and every task. There are different types of things you can do here. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on, say, place new tiles. So I'm going to double click on it. And when you double click, you can do a couple of different things. You can, in the notes section, you can add notes. If you wanted, you can even attach a external file. and you can create from file, and you can browse to a document, and you can attach it. Now you can choose to just have a link to the attachment. When you do a link, it doesn't attach the information to your project, it's just part of it. But if you don't have the link, it means your Microsoft project file will start to get very big because it has to keep that information with it. And that will be good if you were emailing it to somebody, because if you do a link to that attachment, say this was like a floor plan, and if you emailed it to somebody, they will not get the link because this link is going to sit on your computer. So you might want to just remove the link if that was the case. So you can have notes, and I'm just going to click OK, and the notes will be visible. Even when you add an external file, just write a note there is a file attached, so it will tell you there. Otherwise, you will not know what that note is there for. Now we need to talk about some different types of tasks, because there are different ways a task can be set up. So I'm just going to double click here to show you. Under Advanced, there are these different task types: fixed units, fixed duration, and fixed work. And there is a thing called effort driven. So I'm just going to bring out my PowerPoint here. So fixed unit tasks are assignment units, which are as percentages. So say I was going to do this task, so I'll be assigned maybe 100% of my time to it, or 50% of my time to it. So that's the way the fixed unit works, and by default this is the one that comes up. Fixed duration tasks are tasks which they require a certain amount of time. Even if you have more than one person, it doesn't matter. It will take 2 days or 5 days of work for various reasons. Then there are fixed work tasks, which is if 2 people will take something to do in 4 days, and if you got 4 people, now the job will be done in 2 days. So that is fixed because it is number of more people, less time it takes. And the option called effort driven, which is fixed work tasks are always effort driven because more people there are, the lesser time it will take. So if I've got a paint job to be done in 2 days by 2 people, and if I have 3 people, I'll be done in maybe 1.5 days. So in each and every project, I can set that. So for fix this job, which is place new tiles, I can say, you know what, this is fixed work, because if I had more people, I could get them starting working in different rooms altogether. And you see, effort driven is automatically highlighted. You cannot change it. That's given. So if you go to fixed unit, now you can remove the check mark. So for this one, I'll just set it to fixed work, and I can click OK. Okay. So every job, when you double click on it, you get this option, and wherever it is like this job is not effort driven, you can remove the check marks to it. The next thing we need to understand is what is known as task dependency, which is how are your tasks connected to each other. By default, the tasks are usually finished to start. The first word finish applies to how that job is connected to the predecessor job. That means the job ahead of it. And the start applies to the job after it. Okay, so how is it related to the successor, the next part of this, to it? So for example, like there are certain jobs here where all the jobs are by default, this job will get done and then this will start. But say for example, my closet room, which is this room number 2, I'm like, you know what, this job can start as soon as the first job starts. So I can double click on it, I can go to the predecessor, and this one I can say, you know what, make it a start to start, so that as soon as that assembly closet room 1 starts, I can even start the second one. Okay. So you see now in the Gantt chart, you can see that now it's not waiting. The second job is not waiting for the previous job to finish. It will start as soon as that one starts. So there are different types here. The finish to start, which is the basics type. The previous job finishes, then the next one starts. Start to start. You know, successor cannot start until the predecessor starts. So as soon as the previous job starts, the next job can start too. Finish to finish. The successor's task cannot finish until the predecessor. So it's like the second job cannot finish till the time the previous job is not done. and start to finish. Successor task cannot finish until predecessor task starts. So there are these different types of task dependency that you can get to by double clicking on it under predecessor, and then you just change the things here. Now on the side here there is this thing called lag. So the lag is like, say for example, painting house, right? And I thought, you know what, I need to give it maybe 2 days to make sure that everything's dried up before the closet job, which is right after it, starts. So I could just put there plus 2D. So I've added a lag of 2 extra days. If I wanted it to be minus 2D, less than, I could put minus 2D, that it would take less time. So the lead time is the negative and the lag time is some extra days. So in certain cases you may need it. So when you do that, you see now these numbers have changed because I've added the lag day. Things got pushed behind, and the Gantt project already adapted, and you can see how the colors in blue shows me the changes. This is where some of the things started to change. So that's another option to use whenever you needed it, if you were not sure or certain jobs required some extra space between each other. And the next thing we need to understand is what is known as constraint types. So say I'm just going to double click on some jobs and I go to advanced, and in here there's this thing called constraint type where you can set a deadline for a certain job. If that was really important, you can set a deadline for it. And there are certain constraints, and there are different types of constraints. By default, the constraint is as soon as possible. This job can start as soon as possible. But there are different types. To look at it, I'll bring up my PowerPoint. So one constraint type is like as late as possible. So the project forces the task to start on the last date possible, so that the task ends no later than the end date. Okay. Finish no earlier than or finish no later. That means projects make sure that the task finishes no sooner or later than a date that we supply. Must start on or must finish on. Project forces the task to start or finish on a date we supply. So depending on what you choose, you say start on a certain date, it will start on that date, that particular task. Or you can say this task should finish on, then it will try to finish that task by that date on the project. Start no earlier than or start no later than. Project makes sure task starts no sooner or later than supplied date. So there are different types of constraint types that if you ever needed it, you can put it here. You can even set a deadline if you needed it. Okay, I'll just hit cancel. There is one thing that I haven't done. I haven't saved my work, so let me go ahead and click on save up here, or click file and save, and I'll save it in my Microsoft project folder, and I'll just call it Amir's Reno. You can also save this as a 2000-2003 format if you were going to send it to other people who didn't have the latest one. I can hit save. 2010 will try to save every few minutes. In 2007 it's not doing that by default. The next thing I want to show you, and we'll end this video, is that you can sort your projects by start date, finish date, by priority, so you can get to the important ones. So you can even go to this sort by, and you can choose how do you want to sort. When you have lots of tasks, this will be a good way to find things. And you can also filter, so you can go to the filter here if you want, and you can filter by various criteria: summary tasks, milestones, so you can find things as you wanted it. You can even right click on something and you can hide a column. You can even sort things from here. If you wanted to find a certain task, you can go to edit and you can find whatever task you were looking for. So in this video we talked about the basics of Microsoft project, and we also talked about how to add tasks, how to add notes, how to add external files to a note, how to add durations, how to link the tasks together, how to add summary task, which is when you have a 0-day task, and also how to use indent to get your summary task into place. And sorry, this was the milestone, not summary, the milestone, which is by 0 days. And then we looked at different types of tasks, different constraint types, and also the predecessor, how your task is connected to. Thank you for watching. In the second video, I'll try to talk about resources. But you could click on File and New, and if you wanted, you can look at some templates. You can just download ready-made templates that Microsoft has that you can look at if you didn't want to work with it. But I like to work with a blank project. So first, under File, there is an option called Properties. You can click in here and you can make up a project. So I can just say Amir's House Reno. I can put the manager's name, and I can also, is used to track projects. You can put task in there, assign people to the jobs, put cost into it. You can create reports. So as we go through, we'll look at each and every element. The first thing in this video, I want to talk about the basics of Microsoft Project and get into as much details as we can with task. So the first thing is, when you go to the menu, there is the menu system. If you found that it didn't open like this, in my case it did, you can just click on blank. So put the company. Okay. So just some information that you can add here. Under Edit, you've got all the different options for finding, replacing, copying, and deleting. We'll talk about some of these things. Under View, you've got options to view things in different ways. If I wanted, I could view toolbars, and I can add a tracking toolbar. Right now we have the standard and the formatting, but if I wanted, I could put a tracking. And this might go short. Hello everyone, this is the video for Microsoft Project 2007. I've already done a series for Project 2010, so if you have that version and you wanted to look at it, you can find that videos. I'll try to put a link around here somewhere as I'm speaking. You should see it somewhere here, that you can go to the playlist. I've got 5 videos for it. I'm planning to do the same here. I'm going to most probably have 4 videos for Microsoft Project 2007. Try to cover all the important elements. 2007 and 2010, there is a difference because in 2007 they did not go to the ribbon system, which 2010 has. In Word, Excel 2007, they did move to the ribbon system. In 2007 project, they still had the menu system, the file, edit. So it just looks different. The ideas are the same, so I'm hoping in 4 videos I'll be able to cover all the important elements. So let's get going with Microsoft Project.